November 20, 1995. Do you remember when television interviews were events? When families gathered around TV sets to watch? 23 million people in Britain, nearly half the country, tuned in to BBC Panorama that night. They were about to hear Princess Diana say something that would shock the world and, many believe, seal her fate. She sat in Kensington Palace, wearing black eyeliner that made her blue eyes pierce through the camera. Her voice was soft but steady as she said the words that would define her tragedy. There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. 3 of us. Diana, Charles, Camilla. The interview lasted 55 minutes. Diana spoke about her bulimia, her depression, her husband's affair, her own brief affair, and her belief that she'd never be queen. But most devastatingly, she spoke about feeling hunted, trapped, watched. "I'd like to be a queen of people's hearts," she said, "but I don't see myself being queen of this country." 21 months later, Diana was dead, killed in a Paris tunnel while being chased by paparazzi. And the world would forever ask, was that interview the beginning of the end? But nobody watching that night knew what had happened behind the scenes to make Diana agree to it. September 1995. 2 months before the interview. Do you remember when journalists could still manipulate? When there was no social media to expose lies? BBC reporter Martin Bashir approached Diana's brother, Earl Spencer, with fake bank statements. The documents claimed that palace staff were being paid by tabloids to spy on Diana, that her phones were tapped, that even her closest friends were selling information. It was all lies. Bashir had forged the documents, but Diana believed them. She was already paranoid, and with good reason. The press followed her everywhere. Telephoto lenses captured her at the gym, at restaurants, even at her children's school. She couldn't breathe without a camera documenting it. So when Bashir showed her proof that the palace was conspiring against her, she broke. "They're trying to destroy me," she told her brother. "I need to tell my side, the truth, before they bury it." Earl Spencer was suspicious. "Diana, how do you know these documents are real?" "Because it makes sense. Everything makes sense now. Why I feel watched all the time. Why stories keep appearing that only palace insiders would know." She agreed to the interview. No PR team, no palace approval, no protection. Just Diana, alone, telling her truth to a man who'd manipulated her into thinking she had no choice. And that decision would change everything. November 20th. The interview aired. Do you remember where you were? If you're old enough, you remember. The shock, the sadness, the sense that something irreversible had just happened. Diana spoke about her marriage with devastating honesty. About discovering Camilla's bracelet before the wedding, 2 interlocking C's. About Charles wearing cufflinks Camilla had given him on their honeymoon. About feeling like the third person in her own marriage. "A woman's instinct is a very good one," she said, her eyes filling with tears she refused to let fall. "I knew before we married that Charles loved someone else, but I was 19. I thought I could make him love me." She spoke about her bulimia. About throwing herself down the stairs while pregnant because she was so desperate for Charles's attention. About cutting herself. About the palace's response, "Keep quiet. Don't make a scene. Protect the institution." "I was crying out for help," she said, but no one was listening. The interviewer asked about her own affair with James Hewitt, her riding instructor. She admitted it. "Yes, I adored him. Yes, I was in love with him, but I was very let down." Then came the question that would haunt her. "Do you think you'll ever be queen?" Diana's answer was prophetic. "I'd like to be a queen of people's hearts, in people's hearts. But I don't see myself being queen of this country. I don't think many people would want me to be queen." What she didn't say, what she couldn't say, was that the palace had already decided she'd never be queen. The interview just gave them justification. December 1995. 1 month after the interview, Queen Elizabeth II had seen enough. She sent letters to both Charles and Diana, "Get divorced. Now." Do you remember when the Queen's word was law? When royalty didn't negotiate? The letter was polite but firm. The marriage was damaging the monarchy. It needed to end. Diana's lawyer received the instruction, finalize the divorce by summer. Give up the HRH title. Accept a financial settlement. Disappear from royal life. Diana fought back. "I won't be erased. I won't be silenced." But she had no power. The interview that was supposed to give her voice had given the palace ammunition. She'd admitted to adultery. She'd questioned Charles's fitness to be king. She'd broken royal protocol in the most public way possible. The divorce was finalized August 28, 1996. Diana kept her apartments at Kensington Palace. Got £17 million settlement. Kept her title, Diana, Princess of Wales, but lost Her Royal Highness. That loss, those 3 letters, HRH, devastated her more than anything. It meant she was no longer protected by royal protocol, no longer had palace security unless she paid for it herself, no longer had any official standing. She was cast out, vulnerable, alone. And the paparazzi sensed blood in the water. 1996 through 1997, Diana tried to rebuild. She continued her charity work, landmines, AIDS patients, homeless shelters. The causes nobody else would touch. She dated a heart surgeon, a Pakistani cricket player. The tabloids covered every date, every smile, every potential romance with obsessive detail. Do you remember what it was like before privacy laws? When photographers could follow you anywhere, camp outside your home, chase your car? Diana lived that nightmare every single day. She'd leave Kensington Palace and motorcycles would appear. Dozens of them. Photographers shouting, cameras clicking, following her through London streets. She'd try to lose them. They'd follow anyway. I can't live like this, she told friends. I feel hunted. Like prey. Her protection officer had resigned. The palace wouldn't pay for royal-level security anymore. She hired private security, but it wasn't enough. Nothing was enough against the feeding frenzy the press had become. Then in summer 1997, she met Dodi Fayed, son of billionaire Mohammed Al Fayed. Charming, wealthy, willing to protect her from the cameras. They vacationed in the Mediterranean, on his father's yacht, away from England, away from the press. For a few weeks, Diana was happy. The tabloids went insane. Diana's new love. The kiss. Photos of them on the yacht. Photos of them swimming. Photos of them existing. Mohammed Al Fayed claimed they were engaged. Diana's friends said no, but the speculation was relentless. And in late August, they made a fatal decision, one more night in Paris before returning to London. August 30th, 1997. Do you remember that Saturday? It was normal, ordinary, nobody knew what was coming. Diana and Dodi were at the Ritz Hotel in Paris, owned by Dodi's father. Outside, paparazzi swarmed, dozens of them, motorcycles, cameras, waiting. They had dinner. Dodi ordered the chef to prepare something special. They talked about the future, about maybe moving to California, about getting away from the British press. Around midnight, they decided to leave, go to Dodi's apartment. Their driver, Henri Paul, the Ritz's acting security manager, would drive. Their bodyguard Trevor Rees-Jones would accompany them. Henri Paul had been drinking, 3 times the legal limit, the autopsy would later show. But nobody knew that yet. The plan, decoy cars would leave from the front entrance. Diana and Dodi would leave from the back in a Mercedes S280. They'd lose the photographers. Simple. It didn't work. The paparazzi saw through the decoy. Motorcycles followed the Mercedes. Through Paris streets. Faster, faster, go faster, Dodi reportedly told Henri Paul. Lose them. Henri Paul accelerated. The Mercedes hit 65 miles per hour in a 30 miles per hour zone. The paparazzi kept up. Cameras ready. Following, hunting, and then came the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, 12:23 a.m., August 31st. The Mercedes entered the tunnel at high speed. Henri Paul tried to pass a slower car, lost control. The car swerved, hit a concrete pillar at 65 miles per hour. Trevor Rees-Jones survived, the only one wearing a seatbelt. Henri Paul died instantly. Dodi died instantly. Diana was alive but critically injured. The paparazzi arrived seconds later. Did they help? Some claim they called for help. Others say they took photographs first. Of Diana, dying, trapped in the wreckage. Do you remember when you heard? Most people remember exactly where they were. Sunday morning. The phone ringing. The TV showing the tunnel. The unbelievable news. Princess Diana was dead. She died at 4 a.m. in a Paris hospital. Internal injuries. Bleeding. Despite 2 hours of surgery trying to save her. She was 36 years old. And the world stopped. The grief was unprecedented. Do you remember? Millions of flowers at Kensington Palace, teddy bears, notes, candles, people crying in the streets, strangers hugging, the entire nation mourning a woman they'd never met but felt they knew. The funeral was September 6th. 2 billion people watched worldwide. Her sons, William, 15, and Harry, 12, walked behind her coffin. Young boys, trying not to cry, mourning their mother while the world watched. Elton John sang, Candle in the Wind, rewritten for Diana. Goodbye England's Rose. Not a dry eye anywhere, but alongside grief came rage. Rage at the paparazzi who'd chased her. Rage at the press who'd hounded her for 16 years. Rage at the palace who'd cast her out. And rage at that interview. The interview that started the final spiral. The interview that gave the palace justification to remove her protection. The interview that made her more vulnerable to the very people who'd eventually kill her, not directly, but through relentless pursuit. But here's what nobody knew then, the interview itself was based on lies. 2021. 24 years after Diana's death, a BBC investigation revealed the truth. Martin Bashir had used forged documents to secure the interview, had manipulated Diana into believing the palace was spying on her, had exploited her paranoia for a career-making scoop. The BBC apologized. Too late. Diana had been dead for 24 years. Her sons, now men, spoke publicly. Prince William, The interview was a major contribution to making my parents' relationship worse and has since hurt countless others. It brings indescribable sadness to know that the BBC's failures contributed significantly to her fear, paranoia, and isolation in her final years. Prince Harry, our mother lost her life because of this. Lost her life, not just because of a drunk driver, not just because of paparazzi, but because of a chain of events that started with a forged document and a manipulative interview that isolated her from the one institution that could have protected her. Do you understand what that means? Diana trusted the wrong person, told her truth to someone who'd lied to get the interview. That truth got her cast out from the palace. That exile removed her security. That vulnerability made her prey for photographers who chased her into a tunnel at midnight. If there'd been no forged documents, would Diana have done the interview? Probably not. If there'd been no interview, would the Queen have forced the divorce? Maybe not so quickly. If Diana had kept her HRH title, would she have had proper security? Yes. If she'd had proper security, would she have been in that car with a drunk driver being chased by paparazzi? No. One forged document, one interview, one decision, a chain of consequences that ended in a Paris tunnel. But here's what Diana got right: she became the Queen of Hearts. 27 years after her death, Diana remains more beloved than any living royal. Her sons carry on her work: landmine charities, mental health advocacy, protection of the vulnerable. Her image of compassion, of touching AIDS patients when others wore gloves, of holding dying children when others kept distance, that image endures. The palace wanted her erased. She became immortal. They wanted her silenced. She became the most quoted royal in history. They wanted her forgotten. The world built her a legacy they could never destroy. There were 3 of us in this marriage. That line defined her tragedy, but it also defined her truth. She refused to pretend, refused to smile through pain, refused to protect an institution that wouldn't protect her. And that honesty, that raw, vulnerable, dangerous honesty, made her more powerful dead than she ever was alive. Do you remember Princess Diana? Not the fairy tale, not the wedding with the 25-foot train. The real Diana, the bulimic, the self-harmer, the woman who cried for help and got silence. The mother who wanted her sons to know the real world, not just palaces. The humanitarian who chose landmine victims over royal banquets. She was hunted her entire adult life, by cameras, by expectations, by a family that valued duty over humanity. And in the end, the hunt killed her. But she won, because the echo never ended. Every person who speaks their truth despite consequences is Diana's echo. Every person who chooses compassion over protocol is Diana's echo. Every person who refuses to be silenced is Diana's echo. The interview was supposed to destroy her. Instead, it immortalized her. The palace cast her out. The world embraced her. The press killed her. History vindicated her. I'd like to be a queen of people's hearts. She said that in the interview. And she became exactly that. Not through title or protocol or royal decree. Through truth. Through vulnerability. Through refusing to pretend everything was fine when it wasn't. 27 years later, we're still talking about her. Still defending her. Still mourning her. Still angry about what was done to her. That's not just legacy. That's immortality. Do you remember the day Diana died? The shock. The disbelief. The sense that something precious and irreplaceable had been lost. She was 36. Her sons were children. She was just beginning to find happiness after years of misery. And she died running from cameras, in a car with a drunk driver, because she'd been stripped of protection after telling the truth on television. The interview didn't seal her fate. The response to it did. The palace's decision to cast her out. The press's decision to hunt her even harder. The world's insatiable appetite for photos of a woman who just wanted to be left alone. The echo never ends. Can you hear it? It sounds like cameras clicking. Like Diana whispering, "There were 3 of us." Like 2 young boys walking behind their mother's coffin. Like Elton John singing, "Goodbye England's Rose." Like the world crying for a woman who was more human than royal, more compassionate than dutiful, more honest than comfortable. Princess Diana died in a tunnel in Paris. But the Queen of Hearts lives forever in every person who chooses truth over pretense, love over duty, humanity over protocol. She won. They lost. And 27 years later, we all know it.